I got 7. I have attention if the commission would please take their seats. Mr. Harris, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Barber.
Here.
Ms. Byrd.
Here.
Ms. Cook.
Present.
Mr. Dastra.
Here.
Ms. Elias.
Here.
Mr. Feldman.
Here.
Mr. McGround.
Here.
Ms. Rufo.
Here.
And Chairman Adams.
Here. Do we have a quorum?
We do.
Having a quorum, the public hearing for the Lancaster Home Rule Study Commission is now in session. The only order of business on the agenda is the public hearing. I would like to take this time, if Mr. Hamburger would like to introduce the process that we'll be following this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a public hearing, which is a little different from the multitude of meetings at which public comment is always available and information sessions at which questions and answers could be done. The purpose of this hearing is to meet the requirements of the Act, which is governing this entire process, and to have, as part of that, to have the Commission report on its work to date and allow individuals to provide evidence in the form of testimony as to their views, concerns regarding that work. This won't be a question and answer period. It's your opportunity to provide statements or evidence. Anybody, because this is a formal hearing, which is what the Act requires, will be doing so under oath or affirmation, and the court reporter will ask you to swear or affirm before you provide your statements and or testimony. We've provided a sign-up sheet, which I know Mr. Harris was circulating. We're going to go in order of those who have signed up. We are going to allow testimony of one time, so this isn't like repeated, you hear something and then you want to testify again. One time testifying tonight. There will be more opportunities for public comment, again, at our next meeting scheduled for August 15th. The continued abilities to submit questions through the website process remain ongoing. With that, just for the record, can I get Mr. Harris to testify first?
Mr. Harris, do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And for the record, Mr. Harris, you are the city clerk and the clerk for this commission, is that correct?
I am.
And can you advise as to whether this hearing was publicly advertised, and if so, where and when?
It was advertised in LNP. The notice was published on July 25th and August 1st.
And LNP is Lancaster Newspapers?
It is.
And were the agenda for this evening posted on the building?
It was. It was posted in the entrances in the building, and it's been posted on the website for about a week.
Very good. Thank you. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamburger. First testimony I would like to call is Gerald Cross and Fred Reddig, either one at a time, or will introduce what the home rule process is. Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
We will be presenting the purpose and summary of the Commission's recommendations. The City of Lancaster is a third-class city operating under Plan A of the optional third-class city charter law, a plan referred to as the Strong Mayor Council. Under this plan, the mayor is in charge of all administrative and executive functions of the city, while the City Council is responsible for all the legislative actions of the city. Currently, the City of Lancaster may only act and perform the duties and functions that are specifically authorized by the Third-Class City Code, the optional Third-Class City Charter Law, and other applicable laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The current form of government also places limitations on the City of Lancaster with respect to finances and financial flexibility. However, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has given citizens of municipalities the right to select another form of government, which is known as home rule. A municipality that adopts a home rule charter is provided the authority to perform and act in any manner that is not prohibited by the U.S. Constitution, the Pennsylvania Constitution, or the Pennsylvania legislature. In other words, a home rule municipality is given greater power of self-governance than it is granted under the third-class city code. Following the requirements of the Pennsylvania Home Rule Charter and Optional Plans law, residents elected a government study commission. Purposes of to review, analyze, and evaluate Lancaster's governmental structure, to study other governmental structures, and to determine whether the current governmental structure works in the best interest of Lancaster residents, or to recommend changes to the structure for approval by voters. At the end of a 9-month study period, the Government Study Commission voted that it would be in the best interest of the Lancaster residents to change the city's structure to a home rule charter and then begin the process of drafting a charter. Based on the findings from their study, the commission members reached a consensus to model the city's form of government upon the existing structure with modifications and improvements to the city's well-established practices to establish a foundation that is accessible, ethical, transparent of government, provides for sound fiscal management, and provides for the public health, safety, and welfare and local control. Significant improvements under the charter were made in 4 primary areas: that of budgetary and finance processes, that of accessible, ethical, and transparent government processes, the organizational structure of the government itself, and increased citizens' power through petition and referendum. Other major improvements among those areas also include a requirement for 5-year capital budgeting and a longer and more publicly engaged process for the adoption of the annual city budgets, the elimination of the position of treasurer with expansion of the powers and responsibilities of the elected controller, requiring city council to meet twice monthly with requirements for quarterly public budget reviews by the administration with city council, the creation of an ethics commission with more stringent requirements for elected officials both to qualify for their positions and to perform their duties, expanded powers for residents to have ordinances adopted or repealed on their behalf, either by city council or through a voter referendum process, expanded and enhanced provisions for the city to fill vacancies in its elected offices and also to remove elected and appointed officials. Finally, increased flexibility on taxation to provide another tool to maintain and improve the city's finances and delivery of services.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good evening. My name is Fred Reddick, and I'm also with the Pennsylvania Economy League. We are serving as the consultant to the study commission. I'm going to review with you a summary of the different articles. The charter itself includes a preamble and 13 articles. And I'm going to summarize the provisions of those 13 articles. Article 1, general powers. This article establishes the city name, authority, and boundaries, the same as currently exist. It authorizes the city to exercise all powers not denied by the constitutions of the United States, of Pennsylvania, of applicable law, or of this charter. Probably the most significant provision of the charter is that it provides that a grant of power be broadly construed in favor of the city. It also provides for intergovernmental relations and severability clauses. Article 2 addresses City Council. It vests all legislative power in a 9-member at-large City Council serving 4-year terms. Council members must be city residents for at least 2 years. Council must meet twice a month and no earlier than 6 p.m. to maximize citizen participation. Budget adoption and budget changes must be by ordinance. Council members cannot hold other elected office and cannot be city employees. All actions are to take place at a public meeting with meeting minutes maintained. The article establishes council compensation, prohibitions, forfeiture of office provisions, and vacancy procedures. And it permits participation by council by telecommunications or electronic devices. Article 3 addresses the mayor. The mayor is the chief executive officer and the official representative of city government. The article vests the mayor with the executive, administrative, and law enforcement powers. The mayor must be at least 18 years of age and have lived in the city for 4 years. Requires orientation on the Home Rule Charter for a newly elected mayor. It prohibits the mayor from holding other elected office. The mayor cannot be a city officer or employee. Compensation of the mayor is set by city council ordinance. The article outlines the powers and duties of the position, including preparing annual budgets, both operating and capital, requiring financial reporting to council. The mayor prepares proposed legislation, appoints department heads with council consent. The mayor oversees city personnel, executes bonds and contracts. The mayor may voluntarily attend council meetings, though does not have a vote. The mayor can declare a state of emergency. The mayor also has veto powers over ordinances. The mayor performs such other duties and exercises such other powers as provided for under the Charter and the Administrative Code. Article 4 addresses the controller position. The article provides for the election of a controller for a term of 4 years. The controller must be 21 years of age and a city resident for at least 1 year. The controller must be an accountant. The controller may not have any other paid city employment and cannot have a paid city office for 1 year after their term ends. They also may not hold elective office at the state or local level. The controller is paid no less than a member of council. The controller shall have financial review responsibility over city accounts and also have the ability to review and provide non-binding recommendations on the annual budget. The controller may make recommendations for independent auditors to the mayor and council. The controller conducts performance audits of the city and any city department. The controller can recommend to council to appoint a deputy controller to assist in controller duties. The deputy controller shall be a licensed public accountant. Article 5 addresses the solicitor. The city shall have a chief lawyer that will represent the city as the client in all legal matters. The solicitor is appointed by the mayor and approved by council. The term of office is 4 years to coincide with the mayor's term. The mayor may remove the solicitor at any time. The solicitor may request council to appoint an assistant solicitor as well as to appoint outside counsel for specialized legal matters. Article 6, other appointed officials. The Director of Administrative Service is appointed based on their executive abilities and administrative qualifications as evidenced by professional preparation, training, and experience. The mayor may appoint and council may approve other officials to head other city departments. Members of council may not be department heads. The deputy mayor may serve in the absence of the mayor or the inability of the mayor to serve for no longer than 120 days. Next article is Budget and Finance. It establishes the procedures for the adoption of the city's annual budgets.
Ordinances and resolutions.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
Did I miss?
okay. Yeah.
Oops, I'm sorry. Article 7, Ordinances and Resolutions. Council has the authority to enact ordinances as are necessary to carry out their duties. Council may amend, repeal, or revise existing ordinances by enactment of subsequent ordinances. Legislative acts requiring ordinances include the Administrative Code, the Ethics Code, approving and amending budgets and related tax ordinances, approving borrowing, establishing or abolishing a city department, authority, a board, or commission, control over real property, land, zoning, and development, to establish fines and penalties. Resolutions may be adopted for subjects that do not require ordinances. Ordinances are read twice, at introduction and at enactment, and must be published in a local newspaper or by other widely available means to increase citizen awareness and public participation. Article 8, Budget and Finance, establishes the procedures for adoption of the city's annual budgets, both operating and capital, limits the annual growth in total tax revenues to no more than 6%. The mayor is responsible for preparing balanced budgets and presenting them to council for consideration by the last council meeting in October, a month earlier than currently required. Budgets must be available for public inspection for at least 30 days prior to adoption. At least one public hearing must be held. Budgets must include information in comparison of the current fiscal year and of the preceding four years. The budget must also show financial projections for the next 2 years to inform the public of future needs. A 5-year capital plan must be prepared by the mayor and a public hearing held on the capital plan. The public may submit questions regarding either the operating or capital budgets. Summaries of questions and answers must be publicized for enough time to be reviewed by the public before the budgets are approved. The mayor will inform council and the public monthly on the city's financial condition. The mayor will also provide quarterly budget reviews to council and the public. And the mayor will report on the progress of capital projects. Article 9, Authorities, Boards and Commissions. The article authorizes the establishment of authorities, boards, and commissions by council ordinance. The mayor appoints, subject to the approval and with the advice and consent of council, all members of each authority, board, and commission, except as otherwise required by applicable law. Members of authorities, boards, and commissions must be city residents unless waived by council or prohibited by law. Article 10, the Administrative Code. An administrative code will be the plan for the organization, administrative structure, procedures, and operations of the city. The article requires the administrative code to be written and approved within 18 months after the charter takes effect. The code must include a listing of the departments, offices, authorities, boards, commissions, and other administrative units of city government, their scope of responsibility, and the internal procedures for their operations. The code also must include budgeting, accounting, and other financial procedures, purchasing and acquisition procedures, policies and procedures governing personnel policies, position descriptions, employee recruitment, selection, orientation, training, benefits, promotion, discipline, and discharge. Any other policies, practices, and procedures desirable for the efficient and effective administration of city government. Article 11, petition and referenda. This article provides citizens with the power to, 1, propose ordinances for consideration by the city council. 2, to propose and enact ordinances through a public vote independent of council. 3, repeal ordinances adopted by council. And 4, petition council to place an item on its agenda or hold a special meeting to consider a single issue requested by its citizens. Petitions to initiate an ordinance and to reconsider an ordinance must be signed by 20% of those voting for mayor at the last mayoral election and collected within 45 days. Special meeting or single agenda items requests require signatures of only 3% of those voting for mayor at the last mayoral election. The requirement for voter approval is required for the sale of city-owned regulated public utility system property, the elimination of police and/or fire departments, the elimination of the Department of Administration, or any department required by the charter. Article 12 provides for the establishment of an ethics commission, provides that an independent 7-member ethics commission be established. The ethics commission would be responsible to educate, investigate complaints, and enforce the city's code of ethics. The code of ethics must be adopted by council within 1 year of the charter's effective date. It establishes a public register of nominees to the ethics commission. 2 members are selected by the mayor, 3 members by city council, and 2 members by the controller. Appointments made are to reflect the city's diversity in regard to race, color, creed, religion, gender, familiar status, sexual orientation, national origin, gender identity, age, disability, and geographic location of residence. The article establishes qualifications for members. Commission members may not hold city-appointed or elected office for up to 1 year prior to serving on the commission, or from holding any political party office or political action committee position for 1 year prior to serving. The Code of Ethics must require that no city elected or appointed official or city employee, whether paid or unpaid, engage in any business or transaction or have any financial or other private interest, direct or indirect, which is incompatible with their official duties or which would impair their independence of judgment or action in the performance of their official duties. And finally, Article 13 provides for a transition from the current form of government to the Home Rule Charter. It establishes the effective date of the new form of government as the first business day in January 2025. All current elected officials remain in office until the end of their current term. It provides procedures for the initial election after adoption of the charter. It permits the continuation of current authorities, boards, and commissions. It maintains the rights of both former and current employees, and it establishes the legal continuity of city laws, legal actions, property, facilities, records, and equipment. That is a summary of the elements that are contained in the 13 articles of the charter. And with that, I will turn the meeting back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddick. Thank you, Mr. Cross. We will now proceed to the public testimony. I have the first page of the sign-in sheet, and we'll just go directly in the order. I do ask when you come up, if you come to the lectern, would you make sure it's turned on, the microphone's turned on? If it isn't, I don't know. There's a button. Could somebody? It should be.
Yeah, no.
Wonderful, thank you very much. When I call your name, come to the lectern where you'll be sworn in by the court reporter. Please ask to keep your testimony concise. And from that, we will proceed on. The first witness is the Mayor of Lancaster, Denise Sirachi.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good evening, Home Rule Study Commissioners. As your work as commissioners comes to an end, or nears an end, I should say, I want to underscore my appreciation to all of you for stepping into a wonky, nerdy, somewhat tedious conversation about the structure of local government, taxation, fiscal procedures, ethics, and more. I appreciate the many hours that you have spent reading, researching, talking to other communities with home rule charters, and attending these public meetings. Thank you. While the conversation about home rule started in earnest in January 2023 with my State of the City address, the conversation about the fiscal health of the city has been going on for decades. Each administration over the last 50 years has wrestled with the structural deficit, which has resulted in some combination of layoffs, tax increases, pleas that fell on deaf ears in Harrisburg through administrations of both parties, and near constant refrain of rising costs related to healthcare, pensions, and salaries. I truly appreciate that you have taken up the mantle, supported by Lancaster City voters, to chart a new course. Tonight, I'd like to briefly highlight a few things that I'm really excited to see included in the charter, and a few things that I encourage you to revisit. First, you've done a tremendous job laying a foundation for improved transparency, accountability, public engagement, planning, and enhanced oversight. A few of the items included in the draft charter that I believe further our commitment to good governance include, but are not limited to, earlier budget introduction. We get to do that a whole month earlier, and I think that is a very good thing. Requirements for capital planning. This is historic. This has not been done before, providing a long-term capital budget encompassing all facets of city operations that will be presented annually. Our team is eager to present the work that they have been doing and to have a public conversation about the city's infrastructure. It will both highlight the incredible talent and expertise of our team, their careful consideration of how to address the increasing demands in our water, wastewater, and stormwater funds, and provide the public an opportunity to better understand what drives rates and the rate-making process for each of our enterprise funds. The provision of a citizen referendum, beyond opportunities, all the opportunities to come to council, to meet with elected officials, to participate in neighborhood meetings, to leverage media, and of course, obviously voting. Citizens will now have a more formal and collective way to make their voices heard through referenda. Establishing guardrails. Currently, City Council has the authority to raise property taxes up to 30 mills. While I guess you can call that a guardrail, The charter puts in place a more realistic protection for taxpayers. In combination, taxes cannot increase more than 6% from year to year. Over the last 14 years, the average increase to the general fund has been 3.85%. Some years have been higher, some years have been lower. The proposal to include a cap on the total amount of tax revenue growth in any one year is an important guardrail. Furthermore, requirements for debt policy as well as a cash reserve policy will add an additional level of checks and balances over and above the public budget process. These are all good things. There's also a few things that I would like to encourage the Home Rule Study Commission to revisit. The first of which is term limits. I believe in them. I think it is healthy to have turnover. Not too much, not too little. Term limits, in my mind, protect voters from the concentration of power. They encourage diversity of perspective, accountability, and reduce complacency. 8 years is sufficient for the governor. It is sufficient for the President of the United States, and I believe it is sufficient for the mayor, the controller, and city councilors. The second, residency requirements. The Home Rule Commission has put the leadership of the city in the hands of elected officials with residency requirements. This is absolutely correct. However, I do not believe that residency requirements should be required for non-elected positions. My opinion on this has really changed over time. I've come to appreciate and value that people have a multitude of reasons for where they live. Couples split the difference in terms of commuting time, joint custody, and shared parenting responsibilities lend themselves to living in a particular school district. The desire to continue to live on a family farm, have a large garden, raise goats. I've heard variations of all of these things and more. And I have learned that this does not diminish the spirit of public service that the employees of the City of Lancaster carry with them every day. Currently, the draft charter requires directors of each department to live in the city unless granted a waiver by council. While this may seem like a reasonable compromise position, in my view, it will limit the pool of qualified candidates. Already, directors must be approved by City Council. Adding an additional uncertainty of council agreeing to grant a waiver for them to remain in their current home is a significant barrier, and I urge you to reconsider. And finally, the ongoing operational costs of council. When I think about the city's budget, I think in terms of fixed or variable cost. Fixed costs, of course, are those that cannot change, but we have some certainty about what they will be from year to year. Variable costs are, of course, a bit of a wild card. In good years, they may go down, but mostly they grow over time. The Home Rule Commission has increased both fixed and variable costs for the City Council budget by increasing their salary, continuing to provide the option of benefits, and increasing the number of councilors from 7 to 9. While I am not opposed to a modest increase in council compensation, I am opposed to the continuation of providing benefits. Currently, no part-time employees working less than 20 hours per week receive city benefits. In large measure, we are having this conversation about home rule because a significant driver of our expenses is health insurance. And speaking of increasing the number of counselors from 7 to 10, it is true that more city councilors would increase representation of our diverse community. The city would move from having roughly 1 elected council member per 8,200 residents, that's 1 per 8,200, to 1 council member per 6,400 residents. We would be the only city of our size in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with this many city councilors, of a class 3, I should say. Residents have asked me my opinion on this, and I am opposed. I have been attending council meetings for more than a decade, and I do not see the value add to residents of having 9 members rather than 7. This adds yet another fixed cost to the budget. I want to thank you again for the opportunity to comment and for all of your hard work leading up to this charter. It has been truly an example of local democracy at work. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. The next Next witness on my list is Mimi Shapiro.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I want to express my thanks to everyone on the Home Rule Study Commission for hard work. It has been an arduous, time-consuming job, and there must have been 100 meetings, quite a feat to get up to speed on everything it entails. Each one of us gets one vote. I like to think that we all care and want the best for the city of Lancaster, which is our home. If we vote for the charter, we can fine-tune the various parts to change it to our liking as times change. We, the people, have the ability to make change. In these contentious times, we need to create common ground for a dialogue to bridge our differences. Learning about home rule has the possibility to imagine a brighter future for all of us. Politeness and civility open the door to kindness. No one here is the other. Our city is made up of people from all different backgrounds, ethnic groups that live in all of the quadrants. I like to think everyone cares about the health of our city and the economic stability for the future. Without working together for a solution, as my father used to say, is like cutting off your nose to spite your face. Personally, I think that 9 council members is too many for a city of our size. All districts should be at large, with city council representing all of us. The point that all things work together for good is intended to encourage us that even when we encounter unpleasant things, there is a positive meaning behind it, and the ultimate effect will be beneficial rather than harmful for the public good, which is all of us. Working together and compromise is what will make Lancaster stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shapiro. Next witness is Eric Noor.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So again, I'd like to thank the study commission for all the hard work. I realize it's it's been a long and arduous process. So I just have a few words to say. I lived in Lancaster for less than 3 years, but I feel lucky to live here. And mainly, I'd just like to say that I feel a real sense of urgency to adopt this new charter. And in a relatively brief time that I've been here, it's become clear to me that affordable housing is the #1 issue in the city. The current third-class city charter, which as I understand it has been in place since 1953, provides local control over property tax alone. And over-reliance on property tax alone runs counter to affordable housing for both property owners and renters. As proposed by the new charter, the option to raise revenue through other means, such as earned income or real estate transfer taxes, will help make the city more affordable to live in and sustain city services in a way that's more fair to all. I recognize there's been controversy over adding to the number of city council people and the question of dividing the city into districts. I think these are worthwhile discussions, but in less than 90 days, the citizens of Lancaster will be voting on home rule. And again, I believe passing home rule is urgent, and I think it's wise to avoid the complexity of these larger proposals. So that's my statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Noor. Next witness is Kathleen Carroll Sullivan.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kathleen Carroll Sullivan, and I'm a proud resident of Lancaster. First, I do want to thank all of you for the time and effort that you have dedicated to serving on this Home Rule Study Commission. Your work is critical for all Lancaster City residents, especially for me and the friends and neighbors I have come to know like me across the city of Lancaster. I have been a tenant in a small apartment building on the first block of Columbia Avenue since I was fortunate enough to move to Lancaster 20 years ago. The prospect of a home rule charter for Lancaster excited me from the first time I learned about it because it offers an alternative to raising funds without increasing taxes for the landlord that has come to be like family for me over these last 20 years. Individuals like me and the neighbors in my building, primarily Black and Latina, with one rapidly aging white senior citizen, a microcosm of the neighborhood, retirees on fixed incomes, and even seniors who own their own homes free of mortgage payments, but have limited retirement benefits. A significant property increase can be life-changing. My building is just one example. We have a struggling Latina with a traumatic brain injury who's on disability, 3 young BIPOC adults who all work full-time, but in low-paying jobs, a substantial increase in property taxes that might lead to a significant rent increase would have dire to devastating consequences for all of us. I would like you to begin to imagine how terrifying it is to live with the possibility of losing your home with no prospects of another in sight. Hundreds of residents of Lancaster City live with that reality every day. This is why it's crucial to get the charter right before submitting the final draft at the end of this month. A yes vote on home rule is desperately needed this November. I must draw your attention to revisions in the home rule charter draft that I believe will be an absolute game changer for a yes vote to most voters. In the draft that emphasizes budget cuts, including eliminate positions like the city treasurer and the city engineer, and rightly insisting that the mayor submit a budget with a detailed explanation of all revenues and expenditures, the commission has proposed a budget of $12,000 per year for city council compensation, a staggering 50% increase. How do you think that will read to the average resident of the city? How do you imagine the reaction would be from, say, the employees of LGH? Many of whom earn under $50K a year. Many of them for whom this is their primary source of income. Many of whom are women, Black and Latina. During the 2 years of the pandemic, these employees got 0 pay raises. In 2023, they got a 4% pay raise. This year, they got a 3% raise that was wiped out because their health benefit costs went up. And they just read in the newspaper today that City Council got is proposed to get a 50% pay increase, and City Council is being bumped to 9 members. This makes the commission look out of touch and unconcerned with the realities of the lives of the residents that is your duty to support. I know that's not your intention, and I urge you to reconsider this. Because of this addition, the increase of the compensation to the city council and the addition of the councilors from 7 to 9, this proposal would add $108,000 a year to the annual city budget. And because the entire purpose of this charter is to have fiscal responsibility into the future decade, not just decade, but well into the future, it will add 1.8 million over the next 10 years. Is that really what you want for this city? And for those of you who are doing the math up on the dais right now, why are you doing the math just right now? I beg you to reassess these provisions in the final draft of the charter. If you are serious about the future of Lancaster's most vulnerable residents, give them a reason to vote yes on home rule. Give me a reason to campaign wholeheartedly for it, and urge my many friends and neighbors throughout the city to do the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Next witness is Patricia Rooney.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Hello, I'm Patricia Rooney. I did not prepare any remarks, but I did want to say that I am in agreement with the mayor that 9 council members may be more than you need. It's a little bit of overkill. I am so grateful for all the work you did, how hard you fought about the process, and taking everybody into consideration. But there is probably just a little bit more padding in that than is necessary. I don't have any problem with the $1,000 per month for the council members. But it does sort of raise costs if you have too many council members. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rooney. Next witness is Brad Bentz.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. My name is Brad Bentz. I'd like to thank chairman, members, staff for your hard work and dedication. I'd like to offer a word of caution for home rule from experience. I am a new resident of Lancaster, and I was, previous to that, a lifelong resident of Berks County. I was a realtor there for 4 years, and in 1996, I was president of the Reading Berks Association of Realtors. During 1996, Reading went to the Home Rule Charter. As an association, our job is to protect individual property rights. And to that end, we were cautious about the change in government. Our concern was the continuous policy, that it would change according to the pleasure of the group conscious that lasts 4 or 5 years, and that there would be no constant stream. We were relatively not opposed, supporting our city. And I just want to say that while Reading is a very different place than Lancaster, it does suffer from the same fiscal policies that plague your budget. After they changed to the home rule, within a few years they made fiscal policy changes, one of which was the change of the real estate transfer tax. I'm sure you're familiar that typically it's 2%, and they changed it to 5%, collecting the 3% for the city coffers. While this did have the effect of balancing their budget, it had a devastating effect on the values of the city's properties. They also implemented a business privilege tax which was, as a realtor, if I did business in the city, then I had to pay that portion of tax on my income. So if I went into the city, they asked that I pay a tax on my income. The net effect was depreciating values for the homes and businesses moving out of the city and into the suburbs. There was a great migration. City values went down and they became attractive to investors from other areas, say New York, because of the low values. And that currently is plaguing the city. They have become what, in my opinion, is a city of absentee landlords. They keep coming up with ways to try and work with that, but have not answered that question. So there was a real collateral effect by moving to home charter because of the responsibility that the only consistency stayed with the general consensus for a certain time, and then they went on to something else. There was no consistency. And I'll conclude by telling you that Reading is now looking to get rid of home charter. They've put together a board to find another form of government. They're not pleased with it. Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. The next witness is Valerie Bradley.
I am not prepared to speak tonight, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Thank you. The next witness is Kate Amon.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Hi, thank you. I don't have prepared remarks. I just wanted to thank the commission, particularly for all the time and effort you've put in. I live in Sowe or on Cabbage Hill. I own a small business in the city. I rent an office downtown. I'm entirely dependent on city services and the need for the city to draw a balanced budget. So I really support the work that you've done here to create a comprehensive overview of how the home rule would work. I'm also grateful for everyone who stood up to speak tonight because I'm learning more about the pros and cons. My primary concern around the home rule, and I'm supportive of it to this point, is public education. I would say that all of my clients who have come in who live in the city, none of them knew or understood about home rule up to this date. I don't know if they don't read the paper. I don't know why they're not learning, but any steps that you can take to educate the public across the board would be great. I think there are a lot of people who are not going to go to the city website for the information, so public outreach, I think, is extremely important prior to the November election. And that's all I want to say, but thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ms. Amon. The next witness is Audrey Skillman.
No, I just signed in to sign in. I didn't sign in to
It's
speak.
fine, not a problem. No, I understand. Megan Flinchball. I do like your shirt, by the way.
Kathleen gave it to me. She gets the credit.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good evening. My name is Megan Flinchball. I have lived in the city of Lancaster for 19 years. I currently own a home on West Lemon Street where I live with my family. My children are students at the School District of Lancaster, and my husband is an employee there. I am proud to call Lancaster City my home, to raise my children here and to be part of this community. Of all the places I've lived and traveled, Lancaster remains at the top of my list of favorite places in the world. It's well-maintained, it's community-minded, it's forward-thinking, service-oriented, supportive, welcoming, and we could all go on, right? I'm really grateful for the hard work all of you have already done to envision somehow an even greater Lancaster. a thriving and self-sustaining city. The draft of the Home Rule Charter shows evidence of increased opportunities for citizen engagement and input, a more modern, responsive governing structure, and expanded requirements for those who serve our community. These elements will indeed make Lancaster even more responsive to and representative of our city's population, and for that, I'm really grateful. It is with this in mind, though, that I urge you to discard the part of the proposal that increases city council from 7 to 9 members. I know it's not a huge expense. I know it's maybe pennies compared to what the city might spend in a year, but with all of the changes that I've already mentioned that can help make Lancaster better serve and represent its citizens, there's really no need to, in addition, bring on 2 more council members, in my opinion. In order for the city of Lancaster to continue to be the rich, vibrant, and supportive place it has been for so many in our community, it needs to be able to sustain itself financially. And the added, as the mayor said, fixed cost of more council members is contrary to one of the commission's primary goals, which is to make the city more financially stable in the long term without decreasing or eliminating vital services. So as you look to finalize the charter, I hope you will maintain city council at 7 members. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness is Paul Jackson.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the fellowship of
Thank you, members of the commission. I have to agree with the compliments to all your hard work. I've attended a number of your meetings and a lot to think about. Excuse me, losing my voice. I'm going to read the statement that I sent to the commission on the online forum for the benefit of the people here. So I started with, at the July 29th meeting of the Home Rule Commission, the commission members John McGran and Amy Ruffo described the process that has been followed by the commission to date and presented key changes being proposed in taxation, city council procedures, and in certain city government positions, among other changes. One change mentioned was quite concerning, as it would be detrimental to the key operations and responsibilities of city government. And that is the elimination of the position of city engineer. Having worked closely with past city engineers in my position of chief planner from 1989 to the beginning of 2019, when I retired from the Bureau of Planning, I found that having a designated city engineer as a co-worker and a part of a city's operational team was essential to the proper planning, design, installation, and maintenance of the city's infrastructure. Apparently, members of the Home Rule Commission may think this important function cannot be handled or can be handled through contracts with private engineering firms. This is not accurate, as these outside firms would be limited by the scope of the formal contract with the city and would not be readily available for consultation with other city staff on day-to-day matters. In addition, members of the Home Rule Committee appear to believe that the presence on city staff of a few individuals with professional engineering credentials justifies the elimination of a designated city engineer. Certainly, one of these individuals could be assigned the title of city engineer if appropriate. However, with the ongoing maintenance, upgrading, and replacement when necessary of the city's infrastructure, which is a primary function of municipal government, public health, safety, and welfare, will be diminished without the existence on staff of a designated city engineer, as this professional employee would have the broad understanding of the complexities of Lancaster's various infrastructure systems. In the interest of public safety and the importance of engineering matters to the welfare of all city residents and property owners, I strongly urge the Home Rule Commission to remove from the proposed Home Rule Charter its recommendation to eliminate the position of city engineer. Now, I'd like to add to that. I noticed this evening in the summary And also in the full draft charter, which I read today, thanks to the Lancaster newspapers, there was no specific mention, in either the comments this evening or what was online with the newspaper of eliminating the position. However, thanks to the meeting on the 29th, and the handout on the 29th, and again, the handout this past Tuesday, that's how I learned that the city engineer position is being proposed to be eliminated. This could be it's a title, but it's someone that has a really broad understanding of our water systems, our sewer systems, all the underground stuff that makes the city work. The overall operations of the infrastructure are so important. Streets, curbs, trees, to not have that designated person who has a broad understanding, may have other assignments, but have that broad understanding, I think would be detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare. So I appreciate your consideration of not taking that out of a position required in the city staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Next witness is Tom Hassler.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good evening. I also thank you guys for all this work. It's very daunting, and I appreciate it. I don't prepare things either. I usually speak off the cuff, but I will say one thing. Listen to Paula Jackson. I've been in this city since 1972, and my wife and I have had a house here on President Avenue in the Northwest since '79. I have a son who owns a house in the Northeast on Shippen. I have a son who owns a house in the Southeast on Church. So I get all the quadrant stuff. We're one city. We do things holistically, and I'm glad you guys have recommended that we not have districts. Also, you learn something when you come here. I saw that as well just recently about getting rid of the city engineer, and I thought, I'm not sure that's wise. I wasn't even thinking about term limits, so I'm glad the mayor brought that up. That's not a bad idea either. That really wasn't in my radar. What is in my radar, though, was I also not sure we need to go to 9 people on city council. Also concerned, as the mayor brought up, I don't have the math numbers either, but I'm concerned about the administrative costs of expanding council and some of the benefit packages. Is that wise to do that? So that concerns me, and it's interesting to hear the mayor also bring that up. The other thing I have a concern with is referendums, to not make it too complicated. We got to keep it simple. I mean, I understand the need for it. I'm not questioning the idea of referendums. We had them before, understand it. The one that bothers me is where you can bypass council. It's one thing to have a referendum to recommend an ordinance, to request an ordinance, or to request the removal of an ordinance. But the idea of having a referendum to bypass council and do stuff kind of bothers me. You're our representatives. I mean, or not you, but our councils, our council people are our representatives. This is a representative government. We elect you to represent us. So we can request things as citizens, and we can and obviously if you can get enough 20%, of a mayoral, vote total to request something be on an agenda and looked at, they ought to pay attention, or they're going to lose the next election. And quite frankly, in reverse, to remove something. But I don't like the idea of bypassing, council. That really bothers me. I guess I think that's about it, really. But listen to Paula. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Hassler. Next witness is Kenny Saunders.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Hi, good evening. Kendra Saunders. I live on the 100 block of East Clay Street. I wanted to start by thanking all of you for all the hard work you've done. I know you've sat through countless meetings and had many, many discussions. I also know many of you personally, I know you have the best interest of the city in mind, even if we don't all agree on every detail. There are many things to like about this charter, but like many other people have said, as someone who served on city council, I really don't see a rationale for 9 members as opposed to 7. I don't think the workload demands 9. I don't think the way duties are distributed need 9 people. I think that's just an extra operational cost, and that money could be best used elsewhere in the city. So that fixed cost could be better used somewhere else, in my opinion. I have a similar opinion with the healthcare and raise, particularly the healthcare. That does cost the city a lot of money, and it seems somewhat unfair that there's only city council are the only part-time employees that get that healthcare. Similarly with the raise, we have no problem finding qualified, wonderful people to run for city council. If we did, that'd be something that I think might be necessary, but we don't seem to have that issue in the city, so I think those are unnecessary as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saunders. Next witness is Susan Hoover.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
The first person I met when I got to town was Paula Jackson. And she recruited me immediately to the Harb that day. And then she took me to a political function for Ted Darkus, and I met all of his crowd. So with that being said, I also agree with many people here. I don't think we need to move to 9 city council members. A few things were mentioned, and if we're talking about race or income, there's such diversity on city council now that we didn't have when I got here over 20 years ago. So I'm very pleased to see the evolution of that. On the compensation of going to $1,000, I approached it from a different analytical position. I paid the city council members $30 an hour, and that would equal $62,400 a year. This calculates with the city council members, this calculates to 33 hours a month, considering how much they would work, or 8.25 hours a week. 1 full work day per 5 days a week for the council members would be $249.60. I think that at the old fee that they're getting paid is adequate. Also, with the benefits, I did work for the city at the Visitor Council and Visitor Center, and my benefits through the University of Michigan, I cannot work enough hours that I get benefits or I lose my university benefits, and I refuse to do that. So I was working, I think, like 15 hours a week so that I stayed in that compartment very safe, because I have to get certified every year that I'm not working with and I can't turn down the benefits if I was going to get them. So I think benefits for the number of hours that council members work, I think that is an extra cost. I don't even care for the compromise that if they're getting benefits, then they can't get city benefits. I think it just needs to be stated that no benefits. And so I was pretty, let me see, just looking at my little notes, because a lot of things were covered that for me, I think that's it. I did do a study of all of the cities that do have home rule. And the thing that really struck me was how much decrease, and I made 2 columns and did the percentages, I didn't bring it with me tonight, of how the population in cities that have home rule, how much they have decreased. I think it was over, I can send that information to you. I don't want to state it because I'm on record, so I don't want to say how many and be wrong. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hoover. Next witness is Matt Alsbach.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Hi, guys. My name is Matt Alsbach. First, I want to thank the Commission for listening to the constituents and the push of Commissioner Byrd to put tax rate limits in the charter. This was something I recommended as well, and I'm glad to see it was reflected in the draft charter. What I want to express is actually nothing to do with the commissioners themselves, because I've witnessed their dedication and hard work throughout this entire process, but a reflection on why we are here in the first place. We are here because a component of our financial status is fiscal irresponsibility, overspending, and agendas that are not in line with truly benefiting the constituents of Lancaster. Honestly, at times I'm a bit resentful that the fiscal mismanagement has now placed the burden once again on its citizens who are already paying the highest taxes in Lancaster County. We have heard a lot of reasons for home rule was proposed, such as health insurance, police, pensions, etc. However, what I have not heard is any demonstration of accountability by our elected officials for their role in our financial predicament. My final recommendation, like everyone else's, is to the Commission is to not increase the City Council members to 9. I don't think the issue is the number of council members. I think the issue is our current City Council. It feels like a majority of our current council rubber stamp anything that comes through without regard to their constituents' requests or feedback. This is why, if this charter is enacted, this setting guardrails for what our administration and council do is vitally important. We shouldn't be awarding those who haven't demonstrated fiscal aptitude, nor a commitment to those who serve the proverbial financial keys to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alsbach. Our last witness on the list is Irene Grievous.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Ms. Grievous, you don't have an address, so if you could state for the record your address.
Sure. My address is 426 Southwest End Avenue. And my name is Irene Grievous. I've been a longtime resident and a landlady for almost 30 years. In my 30 years experience, this is the worst division and disparate treatment that I've seen, not only for myself, but to the residents and the tenants that I rent to. So much so that federal lawsuit had to be filed. I've come to city council meetings, and with the 7 that we do have, it is not enough. Obviously, for almost 3 years that I've been coming, my voice has been not heard. Other people's voices have not been heard. And there has been no accountability or transparency for what is going on in the city, meaning special interest groups and the misuse of funds, which is the reason why we're even proposing this ridiculous home rule. With all due respect to the commissioners, I greatly appreciate and I commend all the hard work that you put into it, but there has to be accountability for the misuse of funds and why we're in this position that we're in. And I want to also commend the gentleman behind me, the real estate agent. I couldn't say it any better. We're having all these investors coming in, pushing residents out of their home for personal gain, for financial gain, making it almost impossible, having city inspectors, this administration, coming in, forcing landlords, property owners into bankruptcy or through condemnation, requiring permits that typically don't even require a permit. And then when they apply for a permit, it's easily denied. Not once, not twice, not 3 times. In my case, 10 separate permits, only for each and every one of them to be denied. This is so appalling and so outrageous that this is not only happening to me, it's happening to other residents, to the most vulnerable residents that can't afford to lose their homes, but are. And who's purchasing the homes? Special interest groups with financial gain, with profits, and it's just so appalling, the misuse of funds and the corruption, the political corruption that's going on. And people need to wake up and get their heads out of their sand, because we think it's bad now with the home rule. God help us. And I'm hoping that if the stars align right, this home rule will be rejected. Because our problem is we cannot trust our elected officials. Our elected officials or public servants are policing and serving themselves, not for us normal residents. If you're an aristocrat with plenty of special interests, you have nothing to worry about. But for the most vulnerable residents, they have a lot to fear and a lot to lose. And that is very alarming, and there's just no accountability for what is happening. And with the policing and no accountability, with no transparency, it's just a way to cover up the misuse of funds that has been happening throughout the years. 9 city council members, in my opinion, is not enough. If I had it my way, it would be even more, because perhaps then we would be heard, and our voices, something would happen, something that's not happening right now. My parents came here with nothing to live the American dream, or public officials or public servants have taken what my parents have worked so hard for, and now I guess it's my turn. So there is no American dream as long as we have this kind of administration that we cannot trust. We cannot trust our elected officials or public servants, because they are policing and serving themselves with no way out, basically. And we see that with the rental licenses. Somebody like me who has 8 units, I don't even qualify for the $1,750 that the capped amount. Yet for special interest groups that have over 100 units that should be paying over $25,000, they only have to pay $1,750. Yet none of this ARPA funding or any of the critical repair program is even provided to average people. So where is all this money going? And yet we're going to eliminate?
I would ask you to keep your comments to the home rule chart.
Okay, sure. That's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. That is the list of names who had signed up. Are there any other members in attendance who would like to testify this evening? Seeing no one rising, that concludes the public hearing. That is the only item on the agenda this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn? So motion, is there a second? Without objection, hearing none, we are adjourned.
For your comments, I just wanted to